Welcome to episode 11. I'm Sean Deedle, host of the Purpose-Driven Funnel Show. I'm embarking on a journey to grow a successful online business so I can break free from my 9 to 5. The question is, how will I do it? Find out right here on the Purpose-Driven Funnel Show, where you will get an insider's view as I interview experts who have succeeded. I'm doing it because my why is bigger than my 9 to 5. Life was meant to be a joy, not a chore. Will you join me? Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/purpose-driven-funnels. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Today I've got Tara Bushaw on the show, and she's an entrepreneur with 2 businesses. She's the owner of Speak Your Books, where she helps influencers and thought leaders make their dream to write a book come true simply by speaking into their phones. She's also the co-owner of Laptop Life Accelerator that helps people like you and me create a business that we love. So I'm really excited to have you on the show today, Tara. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so that's incredible. It sounds like you got a lot going on, but I also understand you have a pretty interesting story about kind of how you got where you are today. So we'd like to hear a little bit about that. How did all this get started?
Yeah, so about 6 years ago, my husband at the age of 37 suffered a stroke one morning as he was getting ready to go to work. And we kind of had to navigate, that whole journey. And 7 months later, our son was born unexpectedly with Down syndrome. And as you can about imagine, that completely threw our lives into, chaos.
Wow.
We had a lot of hospital stays. He had to have surgery when he was 3 days old. He had to have surgery when he was 4 months old, open heart surgery. And when he was 1, he had to be there for a hernia surgery that he had to have at the hospital. And the hospital that could treat him was 5 hours away from home. And so when we would go down there, I would basically be stuck, in the hospital because I didn't want to leave him behind. And so on the final hospital stay, thankfully it was the final one because he's been healthy since, thank goodness. But on the final one, it was supposed to be an overnight stay. It was supposed to be an outpatient surgery, but they were going to keep him overnight because we lived so far away. And there were complications, and he ended up being there for over 5 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And and I didn't leave the hospital once in that 5 weeks, which was fine. It was winter in Minnesota. So, so I was able to stay warm inside. However, that also meant that I didn't get to see my kids or my husband for 5 weeks. And so it was really difficult, to navigate that time. And at that point in time for me, I actually worked at home. And so I was able to bring my laptop with me, and I had a makeshift office in the hospital room. And I was able to continue, bringing in the income for my family. Life didn't have to stop just because we were in the hospital. And one of the things that I noticed when I was there, because obviously I was there for an extended period of time, I was able to kind of observe my surroundings and kind of see what was going on. And there was a lot of families that were there for as long as we were. They'd been there a lot longer. Some were going to be there for a lot longer. And one of the things that I noticed, though, when I would be leaving his room and walk around the hospital, I'd noticed that there was a lot of kids in the hospital rooms by themselves. And really kind of I started to feel really bad for these kids, and I asked the nurse one day, I said, what's the deal? Why are there so many kids here by themselves? And they'd say, well, their hospital stays got to be so long, or their health concerns are so complicated. Mom and dad they had to go back to work. They couldn't be here, but, they'll come on the weekends, or they come every other week or whatever. And that just tugged at my heartstrings because I can't imagine having to leave my son in the hospital for an extended period of time all by himself. How scary is that? And
right.
so,
wow.
And so I just, I knew I'm this resourceful person, of knowing how to help people live kind of the same sort of life that I was living, but I didn't know how to do it at that point in time. This was like 5 years ago now. How to get my message out is what I meant. This was kind of before. I think, online, like ClickFunnels, that's the software that I use. That was before that existed and things. And so when I finally found that and I found that community, it was like, that's how I'm going to get my message out. That's how I'm going to help people. And so I posted in that community, saying like, I've got this, business I'm trying to create. I need some help with, things that I don't know how to do. And my friend, who is now my business partner, reached out and she said, what do you need help with? And we jumped on a call, and it was divine intervention, quite literally, because I had other people had commented on this question of mine, and they're like, yeah, we can help you. And she told me later on that she scrolled past my question because other people had answered. And she said something just tugged at her that she felt she had to go back and comment. And crazy enough, none of those phone calls ended up working out. And I jumped on a call with her. And as we started visiting, I kind of told her, my history with my husband and my son and stuff like that. And she was just like, get out of here. And I'm like, why? What? And she said, she goes, not long after my husband turned 30, she said, we were, just hanging out. He all of a sudden had a seizure. And she said he had to go to the hospital, where it was revealed that he had a brain tumor. And so they had to go through the treatment and surgery and aftercare, and her husband had to learn how to walk again, and my husband had to learn how to walk again. And we're like, what are the odds of that, right?
Wow.
And so when we started talking, I told her, like, this is my vision, this is what I want to do. And she's like, oh my gosh, she goes, you don't even have to ask twice, like, I'm totally on board. And boom, our business was born. And so we started out with just a group on Facebook where, we just, like, I'll post jobs online that I've vetted and things like that. But we noticed that some people want to take it a step further. And so that's kind of now where we're kind of looking around, trying to do, bigger things with the people that are coming into our world. And so that's where we are today.
Wow, that's just crazy. So what I'm hearing you say, if I'm understanding correctly, is that your business kind of was born out of a necessity of having to, first of all, be able to work away from home, work on the laptop. But more importantly, I think what I heard you say is that your purpose kind of started first, because your whole goal was to not be away from your family. And then you got just the right connection at just the right time by divine intervention, and bam, that's what started. Is that about right?
Yeah. I mean, because my thing was when I saw these kids in the hospital rooms and, by themselves, and I felt like no parent should have to choose work over their child, especially if they've, are struggling with cancer or things like that. Like, I wanted to be able to help those types of people just open their eyes to what's possible, so that they too could work from a hospital room if they need to. And with my husband's journey, we had to deal with his stroke and recovery. And there's so many people, it's crazy when people don't know kind of what these kinds of situations are. When people have strokes or when things like that, they may be disabled enough where they can't go to work, but Social Security won't deem that, they won't find them disabled enough, and so they get denied. And a lot of these people who have worked their whole lives to build their life, and then all of a sudden they have this happen to them, and Social Security says too bad, and they can't go to work, and now they're facing losing everything that they worked their whole life for. And so it was a combination of seeing that on my husband's journey, and and then seeing all these families in the hospital and the things that they were struggling with, that really kind of sparked my that sparked my purpose, most definitely. Like, I always had this feeling like that I was meant for something more, but I never knew what it was or could never pinpoint it until that happened. And then it was like, there we go. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Wow. So it was pretty clear to you when it came, like you had no doubt, it sounds like.
Right. Yep. No doubt whatsoever. And my friend and I, we've been working on this for about a year, trying to, because we had to learn, certain things on how to, um, obviously to, list build and all those things that we had to, be able to focus on. Like, we knew how to list build, but I mean, we needed to focus on the right kind of people. We needed to get out there and focus on the right people, get the right people coming, into our world that needed that help. And so there was just certain things we had to do, and we wanted to make sure that we had everything lined up in the right way. It was and so that's kind of where we are now, is we're ready to go full into this. We've surrounded ourselves with a lot of people in this space that all have a lot of the same purposes that we do, and so we've really expanded on what we're able to provide to people, and partnering with people, and that's been just amazing, knowing what we're going to accomplish with it.
Wow, Chair, I'm telling you, I mean, just listening to you talk about it gives me kind of chills, and it gives me hope because I mean, that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to start my own business, why I'm trying to, get away from my day job, really, because I want to be with my family too. I mean, I don't have any of the medical issues and stuff right now, thank God, but, I do want to spend some time with my family. So what you're telling me is that there's some hope for me and for people like me that, just that want to spend time with their family, that it's possible that we can do this with a laptop somewhere with an internet connection and maybe a phone.
Right. Right, exactly. And I think, and I don't, a lot of people don't know that this exists. Like, it still blows my mind, when like I said, we have this group, and I post actual job listings in there. We don't post a whole lot about business in there, because a lot of the people that are in there, they're just looking for a job. And so, like I said, we're trying to do an extension to help, for the people that want to do a business. But for right now, in our group, that's what we post, is jobs and things like that. And a lot of them, it just amazes me that a lot of these people don't realize that this stuff exists until a friend refers them to our group. And we've built up a reputation amongst our members that, I mean, when we get requests in our group, it's constantly referrals from people that have been in our group for a while, and see like that we're trustworthy, and we're doing what we can to help them and whatever. But there's so many people that don't know what exists, and that they can use skills that they already have to create a business. And so we're super excited about what we get to provide to them, because for us, when we, my friend and I, which her name is Cassie, when Cassie and I, we're online, and we know all of these opportunities that exist, and we're so excited to share these with people, because I know when we found out, we were like, oh my gosh, no way. And so
Wow.
it's mind-blowing when you find out and realize like that there's this whole other world out there that you had no clue. And here you've been limiting yourself to just a regular job when there's so much more out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that it does blow me away still. I mean, I've kind of been interested in something like that for a few years, but just not really knowing how to get started. And so it sounds like you had a lot of things that you had to overcome along your journey. So can you kind of give us some insight on what, how you had to deal with things like the fear, the pressure, or is there any loneliness associated with this, because you're not like going to work and getting around coworkers and everything? I've heard that sometimes. Or can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so I've worked at home for about 18 years now, but I keep it's amazing. Like I mean, I still go and hang out, with my friends and things like that, just to get away, from home. But for the most part, like, I keep myself so engaged with my online friends. I really surround myself with people like that to be able to, share these stories with, share these endeavors with, and just really have that support. And so, if you're a person that is working online, I really suggest that you join some sort of group or mastermind if you're able to. I'm part of an inner circle group, not like a high end one or anything, but I mean, it's with somebody that is in the space, and she really supports the people that are in there, and we're all very close, and we all have a connection and a friendship. And so even though we're not face to face every day and we're not working with each other, when we're working, we're in the group and we can pose questions and talk about different things that we're experiencing. And I think that really helps, with the loneliness part, to be able to converse with somebody that knows what you're going through. And then also, as far as taking the plunge, it got to a point for me where I couldn't, I was to a point where I couldn't not do it, right? I hate using the double negative, but I had to. I was forced to do it because, I mean, my husband is on disability now, and while he's able to get Social Security, if you're familiar with the Social Security system, you get what they give you, and they're you might get an increase of living wage when everything else goes up. And so, I don't think I've mentioned, but I have 8 kids. 3 of them are adults, and 5 are 11 and under. And so it's we live pretty modestly. We don't spend big or anything like that, but it's the point of, if we still want to take a vacation, or we want to, which we don't usually, but I mean, if we wanted to, right, we're pretty limited with anything that we have. And so it was if I want to create a life for my kids or create a life for my family that I wanted, that's what I needed to do, was to create these businesses online and put myself out there, which is not something that I normally would have done, but the opportunity was there. So I had to snag it and roll with it and grow and learn, because I had to learn all this stuff too at some point. I mean, everybody has to learn it, and I kind of equate it to going to college. I went to college, I have a degree, but this is the same thing. I may not be getting a degree for it, but you have to learn it just like with any other thing that you're going to do. And except for this time, I'm in charge. I'm the boss. I can take time off work when I want to. And that ultimately for me is freedom. I can go take my kids to the park in the afternoon if I want to, and I don't have to ask a boss for permission to leave.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that whole idea of having to ask somebody if you can have time off, and when you can have time off, and how much time can I have off, and by the way, how much am I going to get paid? How much do you think I'm worth? I think that whole thing is nuts. So I'm with you.
Right. And for me, and I should specify, for me, my family, our vacation has never been a thing really for us. Everybody likes to stay close to home, which is fine. But for us, it was more the doctor appointments that we had to attend, because even before my husband's stroke, I have a daughter that was diagnosed with moderate to severe hearing loss when she was 3. And then when she was 9, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So even before my husband's issues, we had to deal with all of her appointments. We had to go to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. We had to go to the audiologist, and we had to go to the endocrinologist. And so it was constant appointments. And I did have a job at that point, and boy, did they not like it. I was constantly, hey, my daughter's got an appointment. I need this day off, and I need this day off. And I'd get dirty looks, and, she'd get sick often, and then having to call in. And that was the worst feeling of the world, was having to call in, because I felt like they thought I was just giving them another excuse. And it was so frustrating, because it's not an excuse. This is my life. I'm sorry that my kid is not healthy, and
Right.
So I just think when people aren't in that position, they don't know what that's like. But for the people that are in this position, and there's probably more than there is not. They know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's frustrating and it's hard and it's, and so for me, the flexibility was an absolute must. Like I had to. Um, and so for me, like I said, it became a point of necessity, not only for the flexibility, but also to be able to be in control of that income that, my husband wasn't going to be able to do anymore. And so, yeah, so online just provides so much for people, so many opportunities. And, if people aren't on there, then they need to get on there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so obviously you've had a lot of really tough moments in the time that, you've tried to get your business going and just how it all came about. But what would you say was one of the toughest moments and how you overcame that?
So I would say, so are you talking like, or personally with business, I suppose is what you mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was really tough trying to juggle everything. I mean, it really was. Obviously, I'm trying to run a business and then I'm taking care of sick kids, and then a disabled husband. I mean, there was a lot going on. I mean, it really just came to, for me, and I hate to say this because I know some people get offended by when people say this, but my thing was, somebody always has it worse. That was my thing. That's what got me through. And why I say that is, and I'll share this story with you. One of the biggest things for me was when we were on the last week or the last 2 weeks of my son's hospital stay, when we were there for 5 weeks. And we saw for about 2 days, there was a lot of people coming and going from the child's room next door. And all of a sudden later on the second day, or maybe it was the third day, a nurse had come into the room and she started to draw the curtains out to the hallway. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And she said, well, the little boy next door died and the parents are donating his organs and they're walking him down the hall for the last time. And well, I was going home with mine. My little boy was coming home.
Wow.
And so how do you know what I mean? Like, how can you be angry about life or what's going on when you're taking your little boy home and they're not?
Yeah.
And that was, so for me, that was like really the start of that mindset. And then on the last night that we were at the hospital, I had read an article about a little boy and his grandfather had fallen through the ice on a UTV, utility terrain vehicle. They'd fallen through the ice, and in this report, of course, it said this boy was being airlifted to the hospital we were at. And we were on the top floor, and I heard the helicopter come. And it was just another one of those moments, well, we got released the next day and we went home, and a few days later, news thing showed up on my screen and the little boy and the grandpa both had died. And so it was just like, ugh, like that's how I look through it. And I'm not, everyone's like, well, your journey is different. Yes, my journey is different. And yes, my journey might be a little bit more difficult than other people. And my journey might be a little bit easier than other people, but it's all in how we look at it and how we handle it. And do I want to compare myself to other people? No, I don't. But at the same time, like, that's what's getting me through, because other people have it worse than I do. Other people are struggling with harder things than I am. And so that's how I made it through. And that's how, I deal with all of the pressures of my kids. That's how I deal with, the appointments for my husband. It's like, they're all here. Like, I have them all. And we face death every day, like with diabetes. Like, it's a scary reality, it's a scary reality that we face it every day. And every day that everybody wakes up and every day that everybody's good, it's like, it's another day to thank God and just go on about my business. And I look at life happily because of it. And that's where my mindset sits. So it's really hard to get me upset about anything or to really rattle me, because I have been through so much. But I think that's made me who I am, and it makes me be able to support other people in that capacity as well, because I can be sympathetic, right? Like I have empathy for what they're going through because of the things that I've experienced, and that's, I think, helped me along the way to be able to be who I am and be supportive.
Yeah, wow. That's a really good insight. And I think it's a great perspective. I mean, just talking to you and hearing your story, which is, clearly more challenging than anything I've ever been through. And for me on this side, it's really encouraging to hear a story like what you have, that crazy stuff that's been going on, all the struggles that you went through, and that you have an online business and it's working for you. And here I am with less than half the struggles going, oh my gosh, am I ever going to make it? Is this ever going to happen? How am I going to juggle all these things? I've only got one kid at home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any time. So just hearing your story, really, it gives me hope. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners would feel the same. So in talking just in the last quick minute here, really, can you just give us any quick tips on how maybe you were able to juggle that schedule with, trying with your business and having all the different things that you have to do to get a business going and generate it, and dealing with all this family stuff?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing really is setting your priorities, because I had to make a lot of sacrifices for that to happen, and it really, people need to look at what is the most important to them. A lot of people just get up every day, they go to work, they do their thing, they come home, they're tired, they relax, they watch TV, they do the normal American stuff, right? And
Right.
or maybe other countries, maybe, I don't know, the cultures, but so I didn't mean to be like that, but it's all about priority, really. I gave up TV. I don't watch TV. I don't watch Netflix. I rarely go and do things with my friends. I mean, when I do go out and about, obviously it's like with my kids and we go do fun stuff. But it's about perspective. It's about what you want. And so for me, like, I want to have a successful online business. I don't want to have to be, worried about money constantly. Like, I want my business to work for me, not me work for my business, if that makes sense. And I'll eventually get to that point where I have, things automated. But in the meantime, people have to realize that when they're building a business, it's going to take a lot of work to begin with. And it's going to be, there's going to be failures, but with every failure comes a lesson. And if you can look at what that lesson is, or look for that lesson, it's going to better you in the long run. For me, like, with everything that's gone on in my journey, like, I can look back, like, yeah, did it suck my husband had a stroke? Oh my gosh, yeah, it totally sucked that he had a stroke. But guess what? If that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have been able to be at the hospital with my son. And if I wouldn't have been at the hospital with my son, he would have died, because there were some issues that happened there that I caught that wouldn't have been caught if I wouldn't have been there. And so, like, so I look at even like life's perspectives as like, what was the reason that this happened? And when you can have that outlook where you can look at all of the things that have happened and find a reason, and then take that reason and run with it, it makes things a lot easier. And I apply that to both life and business. So was I successful right off the bat? No. Did we grow the Laptop Life Accelerator? Laptop Life Accelerator right off the bat? No, it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time and energy for us to put into that, to get our names out there, to get people to trust us. And so, the one thing I learned is that anything worth having in life is not usually easy to get. So if you can look at it from the perspective that, this is really hard, that means that it might end up being really good.
Wow. So your story just keeps getting more and more interesting, I'll tell you.
You can't write this stuff, let me tell you.
No doubt. So, Tara, I really appreciate you coming and sharing, your experience and your story. And, I just know that it's going to help a lot of people. I know it's really helped me. And so in our final moments, can you just kind of tell us, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can we're actually going to be having an online summit on April 15th through the 19th, where we're going to have a Love What You Do series. We have, I believe it's 4 days of speakers that are in the online space that are going to be coming on and sharing how they got started. Some of them were in the, in the in the same kind of situation that a lot of us find ourselves in, kind of broke and desperate, not knowing what to do. And they're going to come and share their stories of how they got out of it and prospered with, their talents and skills and things like that. So for anybody that wants to join us, can do so for free at laptoplifeaccelerator.com /identify.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That sounds intriguing. We'll definitely have to check that out. I'll make sure that all that gets put in the show notes for everybody.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's going to be good. We have a great lineup of speakers so far, and we're adding more. So
that's awesome. Well, Tara, again, thanks for coming on the show. I hope we can connect again here real soon in the future.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate it. It was fun. Thanks for allowing me to share my story.
That was such a blast talking to Tara about her story and how she got started in business and all the different struggles and things that they've gone through trying to get her business started, get it up and running, and really it just came out of a necessity to needing to be at home and not having to ask a boss or tell a boss, hey, I need time off again for medical issues. I mean, I've worked in HR for about the last 10 years, and that's a sore point for a lot of employers, and people do have real problems, and it's really encouraging to hear people like Tara Bushaw and their stories, because like she said, somebody else has always got it worse, right? And she's definitely been through a lot more than I have, for sure, but it's really encouraging just to hear those stories of people like her that have really persevered and gone through all the bad stuff and gotten around the obstacles and found a way to make it work. So, it's just encouraging to know that there is hope, that I can make this happen, that you can make this happen, that we can have the kind of lives that we want to have and that we need to have when those times come, when we have hard times in our families. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I definitely want to encourage you guys to get on over to Tara's website and get signed up for the Love What You Do Identify series. It's a free online summit. It's created for people like you and I who are ready to take the next steps in building and growing our businesses. It's free. It's 5 days long. And, for free, you've got to get over there and you've got to get registered. I'm really excited about this event to see, what all happens. It looks like they've got some really good speakers lined up. So get on over to the laptoplifeaccelerator.com /identify summit and get registered. Well, as always, I've really appreciated you guys being here. Hopefully you've gotten a lot of value out of this show as much as I have today. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the show. If you like the show, I would also appreciate if you'd rate and review it so we can reach other people out there with this message and really just get that encouragement from people like Tara Bushaw into everybody's hands, so that we can hear those stories and we can be encouraged that no matter how bad things get, we can do this, we can build a business, and we can be successful. So until next time, wishing you success on your purpose-driven business journey. God bless.